Okay, so we're getting a bit more experimental again in this session, and people have been asking me, am I prepared for this talk? And I am, because all I'm going to do is ask some questions, and I haven't got any answers to the questions. But what we're doing is we're now today launching a new part of that, the 5-year plan that Richard showed you yesterday. There are 7 goals in 5 years. The first goal of that was to look at the grand challenges to safety. And the rationale behind that is for us to come out of our technology boxes and say, right, what's happening in the real world, what's happening in the world, that take some of those challenges back into our research, back into our training, back into our education and skills and our public understanding. And to look at that through the Foundation's lenses, through the Foundation's eyes. And I've had some lovely feedback from the conference. A couple of people just this lunchtime have said to me, this has been fantastic. I would never have come to a conference like this and learned about such a diversity of things. And it feels like going back to college. You know, you're sitting here and you're learning about, health and safety in a sewage system, and you're learning about foundations in offshore, and you'll learn lots more things as well. But the actual theme running through all of that is safety. It's the Foundation's mission and the thing we're here to do. So we're launching this today. A press release will be going out today, and we're working with Nesta on this. So Nesta is the National Endowment for Science, Technology and the Arts.
Correct.
Hey. And that's because Nesta are better at asking questions than we are. Okay, we're kind of like, we go into solution mode, but actually we're not looking for solutions right now. What we're looking for is to get out from the community, what are the challenges? So moving on. In my simple world, I think that I can say, what are the safety grand challenges and what can we do about them? And in my simple world, I expect everyone to come back and say, oh, look, here they are, and here's a list. And then, oh, what can we do about them? Oh, here's the answers to that. And that's my simple way of looking at things. But then when you ask the question, what are the safety grand challenges? Or as we asked you when you registered for this, we said to you, what do you think? And we asked a slightly different question because we're not Nesta. We're not good at asking questions. So we just asked a sort of random question, what are the things we could do within our remit that would make the world a safer place? So, and some of you just ignored that question in your registration process, and some of you came out with some other things. I don't know if you remember when you registered. And so I just want to show you some examples of when you ask a question, what you get back, okay? So what did you think when you registered? Oh, well, some people said, well, pandemics, that's the thing you've got to be dealing with. And climate change and energy supply and Brexit. And we looked at our £30 million budget and we thought, that's great, £30 million, that's big picture stuff. So some of you come at this from a big picture point of view. You're looking at the sort of existential risks or the things out there which are going to hurt us. And that's great. So that's big picture. What did you think? So some of you were like, oh, reprocessing spent nuclear fuel is where it's at. That's the thing we've got to be looking at. Or the controlled crack propagation in mooring chains. My goodness, if we could crack that one, the world would be a safer place. And that's true. Okay, so, and then the other one, prediction of welding, residual stresses, and their use in safety assessments. Some of you will be sitting there going, ooh, that's mine. and it illustrates the diversity of thinking when you ask questions like that. And it also illustrates a problem for us in the Foundation. This is the one I like best. We'll discuss that at the conference. Let's put that off. That difficult question you just asked me. We'll put that off to the conference. And in a way, I'm doing the same thing because I'm saying, I've asked this question. I'm asking this question here today, but I'm going to put off the answer, and Nesta's going to help us. Nesta's going to take this job on. I'm putting off the answer until, I think, January, February, March next year. So we're asking the question today. We're looking for an answer by January, February, March next year, and we're asking you all to help us with that, answering that question. So I want to put you in our shoes as a Foundation just for a little while. So we've got a mission, and our mission is our legally binding thing that says this is what you've got to do. And our mission says that we are about high technical standards for enhancing the safety of life and property. And then there's other bits as well. And then there's education and skills as well. So we've got 2 parts of our mission. And whenever we get, every month we sit down as a Foundation, and you might not know this, every month we sit down as a Foundation and we have a long list of grants that come in. And Eileen, bless her, in the middle there, you all know Eileen, she's responsible to bringing all the madness together, rationalising it, and then we have to go through and make decisions. Yes, no, is this in scope, out of scope? What are we going to do about it? And so our first filter here is about safety, because that's the wording in our mission. Safety is the wording in our mission. But actually, it goes beyond that. So safety is a lot of things. We heard about health and safety. There's things like, washing your hands makes the world a safer place. Mitigating climate change makes the world a safer place. How do you get down beyond safety? And the thing that we think we're good at, that we have more of a skill set in, is about safety around infrastructure. And that's people and infrastructure. So we showed this to our advisory committee, and someone said, no, it's not infrastructure, it's people. And that's what we mean. So we're being a bit rubbish at how I'm expressing myself here. It should be people and infrastructure, and how they relate to infrastructure, how they interact with infrastructure. So there's a couple of lenses there. So when we were asking you this question, what are the grand challenges, safety grand challenges, could you try and think about through a couple of those lenses before you fill in your postcard at the end, okay? And then we're just trying to explore what the domains of that could be, and we're not ruling anything out at the moment. So there are different perspectives on safety. We've heard about, this morning we heard from the Thames Tideway guy talking about worker safety, and then there's sort of geographies. If you're in the West or in the UK or in America, things look very different in terms of safety, the luxuries of safety that we have, compared to if you're working on construction projects elsewhere in the world, or if you're looking to get clean water and other things elsewhere in the world. And then the infrastructure, we saw offshore foundations. None of us probably even think about how oil rigs and get set up. There's always other interesting safety problems which are happening beyond our eyesight on the land, at sea, and in the air. So that's a sort of a framework that we're trying to use to help us think about this. And I've got some pictures, because you need some pictures. So this is, I don't know if you see this. So this is a worker safety thing, and I'm putting it up because it's an amusing slide, but it's also a really scary slide. But maybe it's a pragmatic way of doing it. Who knows? I don't know. But people still behave like this, and they're not Lloyd's Register. I just want you to know that's not Lloyd's Register inspectors at work. So that's the illustration of worker safety. But of course, if you get your infrastructure wrong, if you let a crack propagate, if you get your signalling wrong, if something happens, the infrastructure fails. The safety of infrastructure, we say enhancing the safety of property. This is property being unsafe, but the consequences for human life are knock-on from that. So it's all about people and infrastructure, but you have to get the infrastructure right to protect the people sometimes. And the last picture here, again, we're talking about infrastructure, and is it things you hit with hammers, or is it actually how do you get water through your tap safely? How does water? And Chad, I don't know where Chad is. Chad will talk about this later, I'm sure, but it falls from the sky, and you turn on your tap, and you trust that it doesn't come out looking like that. And in between, there's a lot of engineering that happens. So this is a sort of system infrastructure that we need to consider. And the things we take for granted in the developed world are not things you take for granted elsewhere. Different resiliencies, Nancy talked about resiliencies. So that's me going highfalutin safety, isn't this great? And Ollie here is going to tell you how we're going to do it. This is the method behind it. So over to you, Ollie.
Thanks very much, Ruth. I'm Ollie Usher. I'm Head of Research at the Challenge Prize Centre, which is part of Nesta, which is the UK's Innovation Foundation. And as such, I'm someone who quite likes asking questions, and this project can be great because I can ask lots of questions, including stupid questions, over the next 6 months. The key question is what's the challenge? So how do we figure out what the challenge is? Well, we could start with statistics, but as I'm sure you all know, statistics are quite limited things. Statistics can tell us what the big safety issues are, but they can't really tell us about what the solutions might be. They're not great at distinguishing between different industries and comparable statistics between different fields or different countries. So rather than statistics, what we're going to do with this project is mine another rich seam of knowledge and information about this field, just people like you. Experts in the field, people who work in industry, people who work for trade unions, people who work in the field, to try and get to the bottom of what the big safety challenges facing the world are today. And over the next 6 months, we're going to be having lots of conversations about this, and we're starting today with the launch of a new website. So, kicking off, safety.challenges.org. I'd encourage you all to check that out, read what's on there. And we're starting off with a simple focal question, which I'll get to in a minute, which is the starting point of our engagement with all of you. We're going to follow that up with many expert interviews, hopefully some with people in this room, a number of focus groups, and then further kind of in-depth research and interviews to try and come up over the next 6 months with some key, focal, important questions about what the big safety challenges facing the world today are. At the end of this process, about 6 months' time, we hope to have foresight review covering 10 to 20 of these, looking into some of the underlying factors for these safety issues and suggestions on how to address each challenge. Now, I said a little while back, I work at the Challenge Prize Centre at Nesta. We're particularly interested in the use of technology prizes to solve problems where innovation is a solution, but this foresight review will also be looking at areas where further research is necessary and areas where educational campaigns be the most appropriate thing. So full spectrum of different things that Lloyd's Register Foundation is good at doing. So I said a focal question. What's a focal question? This is what we're kicking off with. Super short, really easy to fill in questionnaire on the website that's live today. From your experience, we're looking for your specialist expert opinion on what the greatest challenges to safety in the world are today. We'd really appreciate you filling that in and giving us your email address. At that point, we can follow up with a more detailed, in-depth questionnaire, which we're hoping to launch in about a month's time, which will really start probing some of the ideas which come up through this process. So yeah, safety.challenges.org. I'm going to be here until the end of the day. So is my colleague Clemmy. Can you wave your hand? And we'd like to engage in these conversations right from today to kick off what I think is going to be a really, really exciting project for us.
So if you don't want to log on and do that, just write something down on a postcard in your delegate pack and put it at the back if you want to engage in this. Really helpful to have your name and contact details when you're putting down that you want to engage. That's helpful. But also just to say, so this next session, I think the word challenge is in everything in the next session. and in a way, because we don't know the answer, we're just saying, let's get some different perspectives on what challenges are from different people's points of view. And you'll see that rolling out through the rest of the afternoon's talks now. But one that I want to point out especially is when Ashley is going to come up and talk about what we've sort of said is a first grand challenge. You know, we've asked the question, we don't know what the answer is, but we've got something that looks roughly right, that looks like it could be in our grand challenge kind of area. And this is, so Ashley will talk about this later, and this is a safety ground challenge, it's ship-to-ship transfer. You know, how, when you're putting people from one ship to another ship at sea, a lot of people get injured and die during that process. And Ashley will talk about different approaches to how you could look at that outside of the traditional step ladder. Okay, okay. Thank you.